There's a question I feel like floats around quite often. I don't know what's the right way to frame it, but on a small scale, well, the basic question is, how do you move past a relationship, a past relationship? Like you broke up with someone or someone broke up with you, and it in many outcomes, it's kind of the same, because whether someone had cheated on you, or they weren't enough for you, or you weren't enough for them, or in any case of how the breakup happens, there is always this end result of like you kind of miss this person, even if they did so much wrong to you, before you get to that place in your life where you're like, oh, I'm so much better off without them. And even sometimes when you realize you're better off without them, you still kind of, your mind goes back into those pockets of happiness in that relationship where you remember the good times and you kind of go like, oh, I miss them, but you don't really know what is emotionally stirring in you. So my question, I guess, to put it in one box is, how do you get past a breakup fully, and on a small scale, it's like a girlfriend boyfriend situation, or like a small relationship with your partner, and on the larger scale, it's getting over a divorce, because I'm sure the baseline is the same. Obviously the gravity is much different. If you have kids in a family, it's a lot more harsh, but the essence is the same. A breakup is a breakup, whether it's a small cute relationship from high school, or it's a 20-30 year relationship that is now ground itself into nothing. And my question is actually, is it the same? And if it is the same, what are the solutions, and how do you actually move past someone?
Well, there are many steps, obviously, for a breakup, as you said, whether it's a young couple, boyfriend, girlfriend, or if it is marriage, divorce, involving children. In a way, they're similar. And as you said, the gravity is a little bit bigger in the other part. But the steps almost are the same, because we are all humans, whether young or old, whether there is responsibility or no responsibility attached to us. It's the same. I would always suggest, and I have many cases, many clients with these problems, besides my own problem at the time, where I had my own challenge with the relationship, and that led to divorce and so on. There is something that I would always suggest to people to do, is journaling. Journaling means writing all your emotions. Express yourself, because there are certain things that you cannot express, not to psychiatrists, not to psychologists, not to a therapist, not to your best friend, not to your parents, not to anyone. There are things that goes inside of us, inside our mind, inside our emotion, that we cannot express and say to anyone. Sometimes we can't even admit it to ourselves. To that level, there are things are embedded and engraved in us, that sometimes when you are writing, you say, oh my God, am I thinking this way? Am I feeling this way? Even with yourself. So the more you're honest and the more you're transparent with yourself, and you allow yourself to express these emotions and the fears and the worries and the pain, everything, by writing them, and not fearing that someone will read this. You can just write them and scrap the paper and throw it. By writing, journaling, expressing yourself, that's the first step of getting all these emotions, all these thoughts out of your system. Second step is, when you let go of this and when you write it and when you express it, you emptied your mind, you emptied your heart, you emptied yourself from a lot of aggravation, a lot of pain, a lot of anger. Second step, and that will be much easier to do now, is forgiveness. When you start thinking about you're doing the forgiveness, or you're feeling and asking yourself to forgive that person, whether you're the male or the female, it doesn't matter. When you ask yourself to forgive yourself and to forgive them, so it's two parts of forgiving. Like, you forgive yourself for being in that situation, even though you didn't choose to be in that situation consciously, and you forgive them for what they have done, and you forgive yourself. And the third part is, you ask that person to forgive you, even though if you believe that you haven't done any harm, or you should forgive them, not them forgiving you. When you do these three parts of I forgive you, I forgive myself, please forgive me, this is where you clear all the energy attached, all the emotions attached to this situation. or to this person, and you free yourself. And the moment you do it genuinely from your heart, you feel a relief. You feel something got off your shoulders. You feel a huge relief of that. And when you forgive the person, it is actually a relief for you. Not they will feel it, obviously, but the person who's benefiting from that is you. The third part, which would be also something people probably don't know much about it, is something we called cutting the cords. Cutting the cords is like literally imagining you're cutting a cord between you and that person, because we have cords, invisible cords attached between two people, especially if there is close relationship, intimate relationship with that person. There is always invisible cord attached between the two people. And the more these cords are still attached, they're not cut, the more you think of that person, the more you long to see that person, the more you feel you want to see them, even though you're angry with them, but you still connect to them.